So oftentimes when I'm on the road, I encounter people who often want to know, how did you come up with the idea of the National Center for the Development of Boys, and how did you establish it? Where did it come from? And I frequently share the story of the genesis of the organization. And in my previous life, I was a dean of admission at the Macaulay School, and I had a parent who visited one day from Kingston, Jamaica, and she was very interested in our school. And I said, there are 360 some odd boarding schools in the United States. How did you find our school? And she said, well, first of all, I read this book, Boys Adrift by Leonard Sachs. And Dr. Sachs talks about some of the symptoms and some of the things that are going on with boys today and how they've been affected by everything from the food they eat to certain environmental factors. And it was something that made her have a concern. And then she also thought about the school because of the religious aspect of our school as well. But she knew after reading Boys Adrift, she said, we're doing well by our son at home, but there's more to him, and I want to put him in an environment where we leave no doubt. Because as a parent, you never want to have regrets. Well, I took that idea, and as the dean of admission, the first thing I said is, well, if this mom visited our school from Kingston, Jamaica, and we're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, certainly there are other parents that could benefit from the same type of information, and therefore they might be more interested in our school and have a value for, why do you have an all-boys school in the first place? Well, you need to know what boys need. So we created documents, one document called Understanding Boys, which basically shared some research and best practices and some of the books that parents should read, the ones that I wish I had read when my son was very young. And I didn't want any other parents to have any kind of regret. So give them an opportunity to learn while their kids are developing, and you'll have a different outcome for most young men. And so we created that document, and soon after that, we had another mom, actually from Atlanta. Her son was visiting our school, and he ended up enrolling. And she said, this school has been so transformative for my son. I want more parents to know what boys need, because, I was a mom out there who didn't really know exactly what young men needed in terms of climate and culture, not just curriculum. And there's some other options out there. So she invited me to do a presentation with a group of moms in Atlanta. I think there were 600 mothers in this Jack and Jill event is what it was called in Atlanta. And basically I thought, hey, I'm going to have about 30 people in my seminar. I'm going to talk about understanding boys, research, best practices, and some of the outcomes that boys can have given those types of things. Well, I showed up. I gave a call to the Hilton down in Atlanta, and I said, well, how large is the room? How many people should I expect? And the gentleman on the other end of the phone, he said, well, who are you? Are you some famous person? I said, well, no, not a famous person. I work at a school. He said, well, I don't understand what keeps happening. Every time I finish the registration, I realize that I need a bigger room. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, now we're up to 120 people. And I said, really? So I thought I'd make some more copies. That was the first thing. So I go down to Atlanta expecting to see 120 people in the room, and there were 225 people in the room, standing room only. And here I am. And if you don't know anything about Jack and Jill has parents who are more fluent African-American families. They have an organization. And one of the things that, if I have a room full of moms who are in that type of organization who typically have the means to help support their kids and enroll them in good schools and are trying to care for them, oftentimes having two parents at home, if they're standing at the door and can't wait to get in and it's standing room only, certainly there has to be more moms and dads across the country who could benefit from this type of information. So we did one in Chattanooga and had 350 people show up. So we decided, let's take it around the country and share this type of information, understanding boys. We added what it means to be a man today to the curriculum as well. And all of a sudden, the largest event we had was in Houston, and 600 people showed up. And we looked around at each other. I was with Lee Burns, the headmaster at Macaulay School, and Kenny Scholl, who was the associate headmaster at the school at the time. And we realized that we had something that really needed to be shared across the nation. And it wasn't just about admission. It wasn't about Macaulay. This was something that we could do to serve the community. So we went back in the lab and came up with a name, created the National Center for the Development of Boys. We created a business plan, and we took it to the board of directors, the board of trustees at Macaulay School, and announced that we wanted to do this type of thing. This was the one thing that changed my life probably more than anything. I saw a group of men, 33 men to be exact, have a standing ovation and clapping and saying, this is probably the most significant thing that our school, Macaulay School at the time, which is over 100 years old, had done, because it was not thinking about what this institution how the institution would benefit, but how the public would benefit, and how we can be a good neighbor, and how we can be a good friend for the people around the community. And that's what you want to teach boys, because they watch what you do, they hear what you say, but they'll model what you model. And I think being a school that said, let's institutionalize the effort to make sure that boys around the nation and families around the nation and teachers around the nation are better equipped to inspire and lead and manage young men, regardless of their background and regardless of their resources. So the board turned in and they literally passed an envelope around and raised enough money to launch the center that day. And I've never seen something like that in my life. And understand, I never really been around enough people who could do that. But to have people that weren't even solicited to go in and do that type of thing and launch the center to make sure that we had an executive director and we had some infrastructure that we can move forward quickly, because kids don't have time to wait. And that's the operative word, is quickly, and kids don't have time to wait. We don't have time to wait for big policies and so forth to come across the nation, and national and state level decisions to decide what's happening in someone's neighborhood right now. Firefighters fight fires right now, every day, regardless of the neighborhood. And they don't wait for policies to do that. They see smoke, they turn the truck on and they take it off down the street. So the bottom line is this: the National Center was created because of the need to serve the community, and some things that one parent ignited the fire. We always knew it was there, but all we needed was a messenger to come in and then to have the means to follow that lead.